Right, we're in the kind of zone where one team wins one day and one side wins the other, and it kind of gets into a grind. How do you get your guys to push through and continue building on the early successes?
I don't think it's that hard to motivate because they're competitive in nature. Now, those lulls are going to happen, and we had one today. And it's not just day to day; it's period to period. Like one period, the offense may smoke, and then they've got some inherent pride in themselves that they dig themselves out, and that happened today. I think they can sense my tone. I mean, they can do it on their own. The old guys, the young guys are still, learning, what it is to practice and be competitive all the time in practice. At this time last year, these mid-years were in high school, and they're still learning what an SEC competitive practice, play in, play out, and that's what we try to preach is, hey, it's every play, it's every period, all right, it's every practice, it's every spring, and then you carry it into the season. It has to be just individualized to every single play you play. You got to play at the high level, and even for the old guys that you feel really good about, you're teaching them how to practice like a pro. And the guys that have done that, I was telling the story to Josh Allen the other day. Josh, when I got here, he had his first bad practice probably about a week or two in, and I looked him in the eye and I said, "That's not good enough. Never again." And his entire time from here on out, he never had a bad practice. Like, he wouldn't let himself get there. Didn't mean he didn't show up tired. Didn't mean he didn't show up sore. But he understood what each rep meant. And that's why it showed on Saturdays. We've got guys that have got to that level, and for the young ones, they're learning how that works.
Right. We've heard Mark talk a lot about the indoor facility and kind of the challenges in there. For you, coaching out, when you have to kind of be in there repeatedly through the spring and fall, what are the challenges for you that DC?
Well, the noise sort of reverberates in there a little bit, so it's harder to get some communication stuff. But the sideline piece, you got to make sure that the guys really take care of themselves in there. They got to take care of each other. And again, we just talked about that competitive nature. They want to play and make a play on every ball, but there are times that you just have to pull off, and we're good with it. If you're in good body position early in the down, right, you're getting close to the sideline, pull off. Make sure you hold up receivers. You don't want to get them. Anybody getting injured in there, that's the big piece. So these are some of the challenges you face, and hopefully that'll be solved too.
Last year, you all got a lot of good stuff from Jalen Geiger, kind of rotating in as a third safety. I know numbers are different; they're going to change by fall, but it felt like Jordan Lovett could potentially be in that spot. What do you like about his game, and where does his room to grow?
He plays 100 miles an hour, which I love. Like, he's a reckless, abandoned type player. If you blitz him, he might be lower than the linebackers when it's blitz time. And you know what? I'd rather that and then pull off and then be late and slow and try to feel. When he goes, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we talked about that early in camp. We said, hey, listen, I'd rather you be playing fast and we can make the correct. And that's the piece right now. Now it's the correction piece, and he'll get that in every practice. He's grown. Today we had some red zone, and things happen fast down in the red zone. So his head was spinning a little bit down there. You can see the older guys are calmer. They can pass things off. The young guys in a red zone, bodies fly fast, and then they end up freezing and not doing anything. So that's a lot of room for growth. I mean, in every area for him. But he is very much a guy that I expect to see in the fall helping us and having to make some plays and taking some. We've all seen you. It doesn't matter what position you are. You cannot play every single down, and so you've got to have depth. You've got to be able to rotate, and you could absolutely see him, being in that safety rotation.
We saw those glimpses of Trevor Wallace last year, that potential there I talked about. What's key? What are you pushing him year 1 to year 2 to make the next?
I think a lot last year was based, he was very, He's very athletic. We all understand that. So he just made plays on pure athleticism. And he was learning the linebacker position, the instinctual piece, you know, linemen climbing up, having to use my hands. And so that for him this year, the big piece is how to play linebacker. You know, it's not just be a great athlete at the linebacker position. Now it's, hey, let's be a great linebacker that's really athletic. And so that's where his progression needs to go. I mean, he's not going to make that full jump in just this season. I mean, it's a growth process. You saw it with Jamin and how many years it takes to, in this defense with all the complexities that it has, we put a lot on those guys. But he's very intelligent. He's very conscientious. He wants to be great. And so I think that whole room is obviously sort of falling square in Jaquez in terms of how they go about their business. And so, again, I think that's one of those rooms that we're going to lean on heavily, you know, in the fall. I mean, that's arguably our deepest room right now.
Carrington's the guy who's played a little bit this first 2 years. What do you need to see? What have you seen from him this spring, and where does he need to be by fall? Since he'll probably have a big role at corner there.
Yeah, I mean, he played the second most snaps for us on defense last year. He played over 900 snaps out there at corner. You know, for him, he's got to get stronger at the top of a route. You know, last year, and again, he was just a redshirt freshman, and you think about you know, that COVID season, so you kind of missed that training, you know, and going through all those protocols. So a lot of these guys that were here, especially that freshman year in COVID, they missed a lot. Like, so even though he's year 3 in the system, it's almost like he's about to go into year 2. And last year was almost like he played as a true freshman as much as he did a redshirt freshman. So he looks better. He's getting stronger at the top of the route. You know, we still got to, you know, keep his hands up and press. He's got length, and he's got the ability to stay patient and slide at the line of scrimmage. You know, his route recognition is getting better, and his understanding of wide receiver splits. And a lot of that is just growth. I mean, you have 900 snaps, you start to get a feel of what wide receivers are starting to do to you and what offenses are starting to do to you. You know, and you've got enough scars that are starting to heal, that you build those calluses, and now he's a little bit more seasoned and rough, and, you know, playing with some swag.
Rich the other day was very complimentary of you in saying a lot of the things that you're doing are on the cutting edge of what NFL defensive coordinators are doing. How much of that is intentional in what you're doing?
No, I appreciate he saying that. I don't know if he would have said that after our red zone period today. But no, because and he does such a good job in terms of stressing you in every single phase of the game and stressing every one of your rules. I mean, it's I'm glad we don't have to go against him on Saturdays, maybe this Saturday, but not in the fall. But no, in terms of intention, I think it's just about, for us, it's about having the ability to be multiple and you know, causing some confusion. And you know, we may not always be, you know, the biggest or the fastest, you know, at every single position. In this league, there are just so many talented players across the board, both in the East and when you have your crossovers into the West, that you have to have enough wrinkles in your system. And obviously, I've got that, you know, background from Indy, and that's how we were in Indianapolis, you know, and so we've got some things, but it all comes down to whether the guys can, you know, grasp it. I think, you know, the thing we've talked about is, you know, between him and I, is those old guys that we have, the Squares, the Jaquezes, the Thai Asians, the Weavers, the Wrights. Like, we're old enough that they've been in this system long enough that it makes sense, and it's easy to go in and out of multiple things. You know, there are things that I call with our ones that I cannot call with our 2s and 3s when they roll out there. And so we wouldn't look nearly as multiple, you know, the further down the depth chart you go. And so that's where, you know, the more you can keep guys in the system, they understand the terminology, they understand what we're trying to get done. And that's what's great, you know, about having those old guys. And we have to continue to build the young guys up so that when it's their turn, they understand what we're doing.
If
What
you're
is that
like looking
fullback?
at the
What is it?
portal and you know, say you're trying to bring in somebody to help, what do you look for when you're talking about knowing the system? I guess what are the kind of things that the traits in a guy that you want to be able to come in and learn that role?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got to have the physical capabilities to do it, but I think that's what enabled, Quez to come in and essentially lead the team in tackles because he was a super smart football player, and that's a huge thing for me. I obviously come out of high school. At times it's hard to judge that. You do as much deep dive as you can because it's not just a transcript thing. It's about just how they instinctually how they see the field, feel the field. Whether football is important to them, and so you have to try to really dig. And the NFL, sort of side of my background has helped with that because you see. It's not, they don't just go to the combine and have the draft the next day. They don't just, they are in the school multiple times here asking about our guys. Then they dig about their hometown. Then they come to maybe an all-star game. Then they go to the combine. Then they have a pro day. You just think about the layers of, research that they do on every single player. Now, we can't do that necessarily on that depth of every kid, but as much as we can, that's what we do, especially from a character and intellect standpoint.
What does the fullback H-back thing do to the defenses?
Oh, it's hard because you just don't see. Back when we were all growing up, that's what you expected. If you didn't see two backs in the backfield, you didn't think they had enough players on the field. And now, a lot of our guys that we talked about going in the Iowa game, they didn't even know what a fullback was. So it challenges you and stresses your run fits, and when they do it with all the different motions and shifts, and there's a lot of eye candy that creates a lot of eye violations, and it makes it harder to play linebacker, because you're not exactly sure. If it's pretty straightforward and clean, you just make the D lineman in front of you right. If they make a mistake, all right, I'll skip over the gap and I'll make them right. But now it's, all right, I was supposed to be the front side B, but then they split back on the backside A. Well, they had a motion too. Now I'm back to the front side B. Oh, he got reached, so now I really got to push the C. And you think I'm joking by saying that, but that's what these guys have to process in a split second if you're at that second level. So when you put all those pieces in there, it becomes a big challenge. That's why, if it wasn't a good offense, the Shanahan system would have been gone a long time ago.
Do you think Rich takes special joy in using all these, tight ends, fullback, H-back, and throwing them at you?
Probably. I think offensive coordinators take great joy in that, like defensive coordinators take their blitzes. It's kind of the same way.
Quez,
Lines, both DeAndre and John Pleasant talked this spring about wanting to get better than pass defense. How much does it help them to go up against the heat-up shot, the Brendan Bates, that tight end group rather than single man practice?
Oh, it's a huge piece, and part of my job as a coach as well is to give them those opportunities to showcase that skill set, and also it's gonna help us. The more we can do there. So I've been trying to put them in positions to get them, whether it's man concepts or some kind of vertical carries that, things that stress them and force them to stretch their game. And it's great. It's great for our package too, because now it allows us to stretch our package. So those things are I think are huge, and to go against the caliber of the players that we play against, every day at that tight end position, I think it's huge.
What made Justice a good candidate to flip over and kind of?
He does he's explosive. He's he's built thick and rugged. He's got a good strong base to him, so that he can sort of in flight adjust, as a fullback, when you're going to block. And he has really heavy hands. That was something he's always sort of had. And so when he's able to make contact, especially if it's say an outside linebacker that may have got bluffed or influenced, and they're a little bit off balance, and now you put a big body like that with heavy hands that strikes you. It's hard to set a firm edge, and now it gives those running backs creases to either go inside or outside. And he's done a nice job there.
What have you seen so far from Justin Rogers, and what are you, from what you've seen now, expecting him to make a jump with over the summer?
Yeah, I think Justin, from a maturity standpoint, I think has taken a step. Much like Marquand. We talked about Marquand's growth, and he, part of Marquand's deal was he had to mature. I think Justin the same way. And, it's always hard. It's no different than being drafted early as a rookie. You come in with all these high expectations, and the game's different the next level you step up from high school to the SEC to the NFL. Like, it's hard just to immediately meet every one of those expectations, especially when you're an 18-year-old kid. So he's had to sort of slow build it. You're a nose guard and you're getting 600 pounds pushed on you. That's hard. That's a lot different than in high school when you may have, a lineman that even if they try to double you are, 400 pounds and not nearly as strong as those 200-300 pounders, pushing on you. So I'm expecting, I'm expecting him to take the next step, to give us even more in the pass rush. To make plays when he has an opportunity in the backfield. He's probably the first to admit everybody remembers the misses. Like, there's been some plays in the backfield that he could have made in the past, and now it's going to be expected that he makes those, and we're going to need him to make those. But he's had a good spring camp thus far, and it's great to have two of them with him and Josiah now, and they push each other. And, they help each other, and we know just like Q and Marquand needed each other, those two need